How's it going out there, folks? This is part 3. It's called The Homeless versus the Church. Or maybe it's the church versus the homeless. Basically, it's highlighting the churches and their roles. And, you know, and this is what I said in part 2. It's a toughie for me to talk about this stuff. It is. And overall, it's not easy for the average churches to deal with it either. This part is to the churches that don't have a step-up solution for the hardcore homeless or the unsheltered. Most of the churches are just not set up to help the homeless. You know, once again, I'm going to start with the hardcore homeless. My heart goes out to the pastors. You know, that they have to deal with this, with the hardcore homeless and the congregation at the same time. So they have to deal with both. You know, some of the churchgoers feel icky, just icky, around some of the homeless. I've seen this with my own eyes. I mean, they just hide out, you know. You know, when they're in the same room and some of the homeless, they avoid them, pretend that they just don't see them, walk away. You know, sometimes the homeless are a little bit lit up and are rude and are bothersome. They overstep their boundaries and, you know, overly friendly, sometimes just trying to bait you up, you know, for money or something. And they're sloppy. They invade the bathrooms and create sometimes a mess. You know, some are not discreet at all, causing some very, very uncomfortable situations. And, you know, I can only imagine what would happen, you know, when children are like exposed to stuff like that. You know, this could easily cause a problem, and the ears of the pastor would be filled, you know, just filled with concern that, you know, by the folks there in the church that come to church. You know, they're also concerned that would be, you know, cause a liability insurance problem for the church. Security-wise, or safety they call it now, is like also filters in with the liability causing problems as well, possibly. Having to escort some from the building sets off another flare, you know, from the churchgoers. You know, having the police show up to remove some of the folks is just, it's not at all a very good visual for the regular congregation. You know, back again, the pastors are stuck in the middle between God and the flock, or the churchgoers, stuck in the middle. Being the church, they're supposed to be welcoming all the people that comes through the doors with open arms, welcoming them. And to all of the folks coming through the doors, they must choose wisely the proper way to treat them. So do you separate the found from the lost? Do you separate the hardcore homeless from the found? They're hungry, and it's possible, should you feed them? You know, if they need, should you comfort them spiritually and personally? You know, but if you don't do all that according to the congregation's expectations, then you risk what the flock or congregation will wander off to another church, or maybe just stop going. So where do you draw the line? And keep in mind that every given Sunday, you're probably going to have a completely different scenario. So what kind of help can we give them, you know, that helps them get a step up? In part 2, I said Jesus is the best first step. But then, you know what? You know, maybe they have not accepted Jesus yet. Maybe they haven't. You know, but we can never stop trying to help them, or, you know, to consider the divine step up. Never ever stop trying to do that. So moving on here, let me ask this. Have you talked to your congregation on Sunday about the homeless folks? Think about this. Jesus was homeless. Jesus was homeless. You know, part of his walk was to change our hearts and minds towards people in need. He wanted to inspire us to be compassionate, and for us to look through his eyes, to look through Jesus' eyes at every person you meet, especially those in need. Moving on here, how can we as Christians offer a step up? Number 1, in my opinion, again, is Jesus. You can never lose there. You can't lose. Number 2, food. Food is the easiest way The food ministry is huge for those who are hungry. It is such a great outreach. It's one of the best. And then number 3, this is a biggie, shelter. As I have, earlier, most churches you're not really set up for that. Number 4, a shelter with an access to a bathroom and a shower. And some churches could do that, but sometimes that gets a little out of control. But the next one is the dream church. The dream church, I call it. Number 5, a shelter that has access, church basic with the shelter, with an access to bathrooms and showers and privacy for maybe up to 30 days with meals and clothing and hygiene, and with drug and alcohol restrictions for sure about that. And number 6, an open door possibly to find a job, source of income. Now that would be the ultimate wonderful thing. One thing the church could do is open up their congregation, ask for help. And it might surprise you on how many volunteers step forward to help. So, consider partnering with your local social services of the county and that the church is in, the county that the church is in, and search your community, as there are several foundations out there that might be able to help as well. It's out there, you just got to look for it. I know I'm speaking to the choir here. I'm speaking to the choir, but we need to pray continually for our churches and our wonderful pastors and leaders that make the power of your church's light shine. I mean, that's what it does. Your pastors and all the leaders and helpers in the church, they make your church shine. That light, that light. That light is a beacon that brings all of those, who are in need to your church. Remember, God will be with you every single day, every single Sunday. He will be with you and day. And in the end of that day, it will all work out. If you have your faith into Him and to God, He'll do it. He'll help you. That's it, folks. Stay tuned for our next video. Buckets, buckets, man. The buckets that we carry. That's it. See you down the road. If you have questions about recycling your heart, contact me by email, jack@recyclehearts.org, or come to the Journey Christian Church in Greeley, Colorado, and we can help you with that too.